The sound of Alice's manicured nails drumming against Mum's old coffee table made my skin crawl. She'd been doing it for 10 minutes straight, while we waited for Dad and Zion to show up for what she called the family meeting. I knew exactly what this was about, and my stomach had been in knots since I got her text yesterday. My name is Denise, and I'm about to watch my family destroy the only place that ever felt like home. Where the hell are they? Alice muttered, checking her Rolex for the third time. At 38, my older sister had perfected the art of looking perpetually annoyed. Her blonde hair was pulled back in that severe bun she wore to intimidate people at her marketing firm, and she was dressed like she'd just stepped out of a boardroom instead of sitting in our childhood living room. I curled deeper into Mum's faded floral armchair, the one Alice had already declared hideous and probably infested with something. The fabric was worn thin in places, but it still smelled faintly of Mum's lavender perfume if you knew where to breathe. I did. "They'll be here," I said quietly, running my fingers along the chair's armrest where Mum used to rest her coffee cup every morning while she read the paper. "God, Denise, you're 35. Stop acting like a child clinging to her security blanket." Alice's voice had that sharp edge it always got when she looked at me. "This house is falling apart. The roof leaks, the foundation is cracking, and the plumbing is from the Stone Age. It just needs some work. Work that costs money none of us have." She stood up and walked to the window, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors Dad had installed himself 20 years ago. "Well, money you don't have anyway." There it was, the reminder that I was the family failure, the one who chose a government job over climbing some corporate ladder. The one who couldn't afford to buy out my siblings' shares of the house, even if I sold everything I owned. The front door slammed, and Zion's voice boomed through the hallway. Sorry! Traffic was insane!" My brother appeared in the doorway, all 6'2" of him, with that easy smile that had been charming people since we were kids. At 36, he still looked like he could be starring in some cologne commercial. Dad shuffled in behind him, looking smaller than I remembered. At 62, he'd aged a decade in the 6 months since Mum died. His shoulders were permanently hunched now, like he was carrying invisible weight. "Hey, Dad." I started to get up to hug him, but Alice was already talking. "Finally, sit down, both of you. We need to get this settled." Zion dropped onto the couch and immediately put his feet up on the coffee table. "So, what's the verdict, sis? How much are we looking at?" "The realtor thinks we can get $450, maybe $500 if we're lucky. The lot alone is worth $350 because of the lake access." My heart clenched. They were talking about Mom's house like it was just another transaction. "That's fantastic," Zion said, grinning. "Split 4 ways, that's what, over $100,000 each? I can finally get that boat I've been wanting." 3 ways, Alice corrected. "Dad's keeping his share for now." I found my voice. "What about keeping it in the family? This is where we grew up. Where Mom what?" Alice whirled around to face me. "Where she struggled to pay the bills? Where she cried herself to sleep after the divorce because she couldn't afford the mortgage payments? You want to honor her memory by letting this place rot?" "That's not what I meant." My voice came out smaller than I intended. "I just think we should talk about other options. Maybe I could take over the payments, or we could rent it out." Zion laughed. Actually laughed. "Denise, honey, you can barely afford your studio apartment. How are you going to maintain a 4-bedroom house on a county salary?" The pity in his voice was worse than Alice's contempt. At least she was honest about thinking I was pathetic. "I could get a loan." "With what collateral?" Alice's eyebrows shot up. "Your 10-year-old Honda? Face it, Denise, you're being emotional instead of practical." Again. Dad finally spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe we should listen to what Denise has to say." "Dad, with all due respect, you haven't made a decision about anything since Mom died," Alice said, not unkindly, but firmly. "That's why we're here. Someone has to be the adult. I looked around the room, at the mantel where our school photos still sat in their mismatched frames, at the kitchen doorway where Mom used to lean while she called us for dinner, at the staircase where Zion and I used to slide down the banister until Dad threatened to nail our feet to the floor. "I vote we keep it," I said. "I vote we sell," Alice said immediately. "Sell," Zion agreed. All eyes turned to Dad. He looked at me with something that might have been apology, then down at his hands. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I just can't. I can't handle the upkeep anymore." 3-1. Just like that, it was over. Alice was already pulling out her phone. "I'll call the realtor tomorrow. We can have it listed by the weekend." I stood up slowly, collecting the coffee cups nobody had touched. My hands were steady, which surprised me. "I'll clean up." "Thanks, Dee," Zion said, already heading for the door. "This is really for the best, you know. Mom would want us to be practical." Alice gathered her purse and coat. "I'll handle all the paperwork. You don't need to worry about any of the details." Because I was too incompetent to handle details, apparently. After they left, I stood alone in Mum's kitchen, washing cups that didn't need washing. Through the window, I could see the lake where we'd spent every summer, the dock where Dad taught us to fish, the old oak tree where Mum used to read to us on lazy afternoons. They thought I was powerless. They thought I was just the sentimental little sister who couldn't accept reality. They had no idea what I was capable of. The next morning, I sat in my cubicle at the County Planning Commission, staring at the stack of wetland assessment reports I'd been compiling for the past 3 years. My coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but I couldn't bring myself to get up and reheat it. "You look like someone ran over your dog," Hadley said, appearing at my desk with 2 fresh cups from the break room. At 35, she was the only person at work who treated me like an actual human being, instead of just another bureaucrat pushing papers. "Thanks." I took the coffee gratefully. "Family meeting last night." "About the house?" She perched on the edge of my desk, lowering her voice. "What happened?" "They voted to sell. 3-1. "Shit, Denise. I'm sorry." I pulled up a file on my computer screen. Aerial photos of the property dating back 15 years. "Look at this." Hadley leaned closer. "Is that your mom's place? See this area here?" I pointed to a section behind the house where the land dipped toward the lake. "And this marshy spot by the old dock?" "Yeah? Seasonal wetlands. I've been documenting them since I started working here." I clicked through folder after folder of photographs, water level measurements, and species documentation. Every spring, this whole area floods. Migratory birds nest here. There's a family of great blue herons that's been coming back for at least a decade. Hadley's eyes widened. "You've been building a case. For 3 years." I opened another file. Soil composition reports, drainage patterns, wildlife surveys. I even got the State Environmental Office to do an independent assessment last fall. Holy shit! Does your family know? They think I'm just the pathetic little sister who can't let go of Mommy's house. I clicked to the final folder. They have no idea I've been positioning myself to have authority over this exact type of designation. "Denise." Hadley's voice was barely a whisper. "You could make their property undevelopable. I could protect it, the way Mom would have wanted." My phone buzzed with a text from Alice. "Meeting with lawyer at 2 p.m. Be there." "I have to go," I told Hadley, grabbing my jacket. "They want me to sign paperwork." "Are you really going to do this? They're your family." I looked at her for a long moment. "They stopped treating me like family a long time ago. The law office smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Micah Freeman had been Alice's friend since college, and his success showed in every piece of furniture and every perfectly pressed suit. He stood up when I walked in, extending his hand with that practiced smile lawyers perfected. "Denise, good to see you. Please, sit." Alice was already there, of course, looking impatient. "Where's Zion?" "Running late," I said, settling into the chair across from Micah's massive desk. "We can start without him." Micah opened a thick folder. "This is pretty straightforward. Standard property sale agreement, with the proceeds split equally among the 4 heirs." He slid a document across the desk. "I just need your signature on page 12. I flipped through the pages slowly, reading every line while Alice drummed her fingers on the armrest. The language was dense, full of legal terminology, but I understood enough. They were selling to Lucas Development Group for $475,000. "Who's Gerard Lucas?" I asked. "Big resort developer," Micah said. "He's planning some kind of luxury lakefront property. Condos, maybe a small hotel. It'll be good for the local economy." "A resort?" I kept my voice neutral. "Right on the lake." "Prime real estate," Alice added. "We're lucky he's interested." I found page 12 and stared at the signature line. My name was typed neatly underneath. Denise Hansen. "Any questions?" Micah asked. "Just one." I looked up at him. "What happens if there are environmental issues with the property?" Alice rolled her eyes. "There aren't any environmental issues, Denise. It's just a house and some trees." "I'm just being thorough," I said, hypothetically. Micah leaned back in his chair. "Well, if significant environmental concerns were discovered after the sale, it could complicate development plans. But we've done our due diligence. The property is clean. And if it were designated as protected wetlands? That would be a problem," he admitted. "But there's no indication of any wetland issues. The county would have flagged that during the initial assessment." I nodded and picked up the pen. "Good to know." Alice watched me sign my name with visible relief. "Finally, I was starting to think you were going to be difficult about this." "I'm not difficult," I said, sliding the document back across the desk. "I'm just careful." Zion burst through the door just as I was standing up. Sorry. Did I miss anything important?" "Just Denise signing off on the sale," Alice said. "You're next." "Awesome." Zion grabbed the pen without even reading the document. "Where do I sign?" I watched him scrawl his signature with the same careless confidence he'd had his whole life. The same confidence that made him assume he could just waltz in and claim his share of Mom's house without a second thought. "That's it then," Micah said, gathering the papers. "I'll file these with the court tomorrow. Settlement should be in about 30 days. "Perfect," Alice said, already checking her phone. "I've got to get back to work. Denise, do you need a ride?" "I'm good. I have some errands to run." Outside the law office, I sat in my car for a few minutes, watching Alice drive away in her BMW. Then, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I needed. "State Environmental Protection Agency. This is Janet." "Hi, Janet. It's Denise from County Planning. I need to file an emergency wetland designation. I have all the documentation ready." "How urgent are we talking?" I looked back at the law office, where Micah was probably already calling Gerard Lucas with the good news. "I need it processed today." 2 weeks later, I was organizing Mom's recipe box when my phone rang. Alice's name flashed on the screen. "Did you see the newspaper?" she said without preamble. "Good morning to you too. Page 3, business section. There's an article about the sale." I walked to my front door and grabbed the paper from the steps. Sure enough, there it was. "Local family sells lakefront property to resort developer. The historic Hansen property will be transformed into a luxury resort featuring 24 condominiums and a boutique hotel." I read aloud. "Construction is expected to begin this fall." Isn't it exciting? Gerard's really going all out. He's talking about a spa, a marina, maybe even a golf course if he can acquire the adjacent lots. My stomach twisted. A golf course? I know, right? Property values in the whole area are going to skyrocket. We're getting out at the perfect time. After she hung up, I sat on Mom's front porch, staring at the article. There was a photo of Gerard Lucas shaking hands with some city council members, all of them grinning like they'd won the lottery. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. "Can I come over?" Mum's being impossible. 20 minutes later, Alice's 16-year-old daughter was sitting next to me on the porch swing, her dark hair falling across her face as she scrolled through her phone. "She's already picked out new furniture," Emily said, "for a house she hasn't even bought yet." "What kind of house?" "Some McMansion in Riverside Estates. 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a 3-car garage." Emily made a gagging sound. "She keeps talking about how we'll finally have proper space for entertaining." "And how do you feel about that?" Emily was quiet for a moment, pushing the swing with her toe. "I don't want to leave. All my friends are here. And this house—" She gestured toward the front door. "Grandma taught me to bake in that kitchen. Remember when we made those terrible Christmas cookies last year?" I smiled. They weren't that terrible. They were basically hockey pucks, but she was so patient, even when I burned the second batch. Emily's voice got smaller. "Mom never has time for stuff like that. Your mom's busy with work." "She's busy with everything except me." Emily tucked her legs under her. "Did you know she's already enrolled me in some fancy private school? Without even asking what I thought?" Before I could respond, a black SUV pulled into the driveway. Zion climbed out, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Hey, kiddo," he called to Emily. "What are you doing here?" "Visiting Aunt Denise. Is that illegal now?" He laughed and bounded up the porch steps. "Just checking on our investment, making sure the place is still standing." "It's not your investment yet," I said. 30 days, sis. Then we're all rich." He peered through the front window. "You know, I was thinking we should probably clear out all the furniture before Gerard's people do their final walkthrough. Some of this stuff might be worth something." "Like what?" "Mum's china cabinet. That antique desk in the study. Maybe some of the jewelry." He turned to Emily. "Your mum said you might want some of Grandma's things for your new room?" Emily's face darkened. "I don't want a new room." "Come on, Em. You'll love the new house. Your mum's getting you one of those fancy walk-in closets." "I don't care about a closet." Zion looked confused, like he couldn't understand why anyone wouldn't be excited about a bigger house. "Well, you'll change your mind once you see it." After he left, Emily and I walked down to the lake. The water was still and clear, reflecting the late afternoon sky. A great blue heron stood motionless in the shallows, waiting for fish. "Look," I whispered, pointing. Emily pulled out her phone and took a picture. "Grandma loved those birds. She used to sit on the dock every morning with her coffee, watching for them. Mom wants to sell the dock too. She says it's a liability." We sat on the weathered boards, our feet dangling in the cool water. Emily was quiet for a long time, just watching the heron. "Aunt Denise?" "Yeah?" "Do you think Grandma would be okay with selling the house?" I considered the question carefully. "I think your grandma would want what's best for the family. But what if what's best for the family isn't what's best for the house?" Smart kid. Too smart for her own good, probably. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if keeping the family together isn't worth destroying the place that made us a family in the first place?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. Janet from the State Environmental Office. "Denise, I have good news. The emergency wetland designation went through. The paperwork is being filed as we speak." "That's great," I said, walking away from Emily. "When does it take effect?" "Immediately. The property is now officially protected under state environmental law. No development, no construction, no alterations to the natural habitat. And the current sale? Well, that's between the parties involved. but any buyer would need to be informed of the designation before closing. After I hung up, Emily was standing at the end of the dock, still watching the heron. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Everything's perfect." That evening, I sat at Mum's kitchen table with a stack of official documents spread in front of me. The wetland designation certificate was on top, signed and sealed with the state's official emblem. My phone buzzed with a text from Zion. "Dinner tomorrow night to celebrate? Alice found a great steakhouse." I typed back. "Can't make it. Have to work late." Another text, this one from Alice. "Stop being antisocial. This is a family celebration." I turned off my phone and walked out to the back porch. The sun was setting over the lake, painting the water gold and orange. Somewhere in the marsh grass, a red-winged blackbird called to its mate. In 3 weeks, Gerard Lucas was going to get a very unpleasant surprise. The restaurant Alice chose was the kind of place where they brought you bread in a basket and the waiters wore bow ties. I felt underdressed in my simple black dress, but then again, I always felt underdressed around my family. "There she is!" Zion stood up from the corner booth, arms spread wide like I was some long-lost relative instead of someone he'd seen 3 days ago. "The guest of honor!" "I'm hardly the guest of honor," I said, sliding into the booth next to Dad. "Of course you are," Alice said, raising her champagne glass. "We couldn't have done this without you." The irony wasn't lost on me. "Where's Emily?" I asked, noticing the empty spot next to Alice. "Sleep over at Madison's house. She's been moping around all week about the move." Alice waved dismissively. "Teenagers, you know. Everything's the end of the world." Micah appeared at our table, looking pleased with himself. "Sorry I'm late. Had to finish up some paperwork." He shook hands with Zion and kissed Alice's cheek. "How's everyone feeling?" "Excited." "Ecstatic," Zion said. "I already put a deposit down on that boat I showed you." "Zion," Dad said quietly, "don't you think you should wait until—" "Dad, the money's as good as in the bank." "Right, Micah. Absolutely. Gerard's financing is solid, all the inspections came back clean, and we're on track to close next Friday." Micah signaled the waiter. "Bottle of your best champagne. We're celebrating." Alice leaned forward. "Tell them about the timeline, Micah." "Well, Gerard's team wants to start clearing the lot immediately after closing. They're hoping to break ground by October, have the first phase completed by next summer." "That fast?" Dad asked. "Gerard doesn't mess around. He's got crews lined up, permits ready to go. This is going to be his flagship property." The waiter arrived with the champagne, making a show of popping the cork. Alice held up her glass again. "To Mom," she said. "She always said this house would take care of us someday." "To Mom," Zion echoed. I lifted my glass but didn't drink. Dad took a small sip and set his glass down. "You know," Micah said, cutting into his steak, "Gerard was telling me about his plans for the marina. He's talking about dredging the whole cove, putting in slips for 50 boats. Maybe even a yacht club." "A yacht club?" I set down my fork. "High-end stuff. He wants to attract people from the city, make this a real destination." "What about the wildlife?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. Zion laughed. "Wildlife? Denise, it's a few ducks and some fish. There are herons that nest there, and the marsh area—" "The marsh area is going to be a spa," Alice interrupted. "Gerard showed me the plans. Outdoor hot tubs, meditation gardens, the whole 9 yards. But the ecosystem— Oh my God, Denise." Alice put down her champagne glass hard enough that it clinked against her plate. "Can you please, for once in your life, not be so dramatic? It's a piece of land. Gerard's going to make it beautiful." "It's already beautiful. It's a swamp," Zion said. "Half the backyard floods every spring. Gerard's going to fix all that with proper drainage." Micah nodded. The environmental impact study came back clean. No protected species, no wetland issues. Gerard's lawyers were very thorough. I felt my phone buzz in my purse but ignored it. "Speaking of lawyers," Alice said, "Micah, tell them about the bonus." "Bonus?" Dad looked up from his barely touched meal. "Gerard was so impressed with the property that he's adding an extra $25,000 to the sale price as a gesture of goodwill." Zion whooped. "Are you serious? That's another $6,000 each." "More than that," Alice said. "I negotiated a finder's fee since I'm the one who reached out to Gerard initially. So really, it's about $8,000 extra for each of us." "Alice, that's not," Dad started. "Fair? Dad, I did all the work on this sale. I found the buyer, I handled the negotiations, I coordinated with Micah. Denise just had to sign a piece of paper." My phone buzzed again. Then again. "Excuse me," I said, pulling it out of my purse. 3 missed calls from Gerard Lucas. 2 voicemails. "Everything okay?" Micah asked. "I should probably take this. Work emergency." I stepped outside the restaurant and called Gerard back. "Ms. Hanson? Thank God. I've been trying to reach you all evening." "What can I do for you, Mr. Lucas?" "There's been a problem. A big problem. My legal team just informed me that your property has been designated as protected wetlands, as of today." I leaned against the restaurant's brick wall. "I'm sorry to hear that." "You're sorry? Do you understand what this means? I can't build anything on that land. Not a single structure. The whole development is dead." "That does sound complicated." "Complicated?" His voice rose. "I've already invested $200,000 in permits and planning. I have contractors lined up, materials ordered. This is a disaster. I'm sure you'll figure something out." "Figure something out?" "Miss Hanson, I need to know how this happened. Wetland designations don't just appear overnight. Someone had to file for this. Someone with detailed environmental documentation." Through the restaurant window, I could see Alice gesturing animatedly, while Micah looked at his phone with a frown. "I wouldn't know anything about that," I said. "I just work in county planning." "You work in—" Gerard's voice cut off abruptly. "Miss Hanson, what exactly is your job title?" "Administrative Manager for Environmental Assessments." The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. "You've got to be kidding me." Micah burst through the restaurant door, his face pale. "Denise, there you are. We need to talk. Now." I hung up on Gerard and followed Micah back inside, where Alice and Zion were staring at their phones with identical expressions of horror. "What's wrong?" Dad asked. Alice looked up at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw real fear in her eyes. "The sale is off," she whispered. "The whole thing is off." The silence at our table was deafening. Other diners continued their conversations around us, clinking glasses and laughing, completely oblivious to the bomb that had just exploded in our little corner. Micah was frantically scrolling through his phone. "This doesn't make sense. I had my paralegal run a full environmental check just last month. There was nothing." "What exactly are we dealing with?" Alice's voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the panic underneath. "Protected wetlands designation, filed with the state yesterday, effective immediately." Micah looked up from his phone. "Gerard's lawyers are saying the property is completely undevelopable now. No construction, no alterations to the natural habitat, nothing." Zion grabbed Micah's phone. "Let me see that." "Zion, give it back," Alice snapped. "This has to be a mistake," Zion said, reading. "It's just some bureaucratic mix-up, right? We can appeal it or something. It's not a mix-up." Micah's voice was grim. "I just got off the phone with Gerard's head counsel. They've been dealing with wetland issues for years. This designation is rock solid. Someone filed a comprehensive environmental impact study with 3 years of documentation." Alice turned to stare at me. 3 years? "That's what it says here," Zion read from the phone. seasonal flooding patterns, migratory bird nesting sites, protected species habitat. He looked confused. Who the hell has been studying our backyard for 3 years? The waiter approached our table with dessert menus, took one look at our faces, and quickly retreated. Gerard is threatening to sue, Micah continued. Breach of contract, failure to disclose material information, damages for lost investment. He's talking about millions. Dad finally spoke up, his voice barely audible. Millions? His legal team is claiming we knowingly withheld information about environmental restrictions. They're saying we committed fraud. But we didn't know, Alice said. How could we know? That's what I told them, but Gerard's not buying it. He thinks someone in the family orchestrated this whole thing. All 3 of them turned to look at me. Why are you all staring at me? I asked, taking a sip of my champagne. Because you work for the county planning office, Alice said slowly. Because you handle environmental assessments. So? So you would have known if there were wetland issues with the property. I shrugged. I handle dozens of properties every month. I can't keep track of every single environmental report that crosses my desk. But this is our family's property, Zion said. You would have noticed if something came up about Mum's house. Would I? You all made it pretty clear that I'm just a paper-pushing bureaucrat who doesn't pay attention to important details. Micah was typing furiously on his phone. I'm trying to reach someone at the state environmental office. Maybe we can get more information about who filed this designation. Good luck with that, I said. Government offices are closed after 5. Alice leaned across the table. Denise, I need you to be completely honest with me. Did you know about this wetland thing before we signed the sale agreement? Are you accusing me of something? I'm asking you a direct question. I met her gaze steadily. I signed the same paperwork you did, Alice. I agreed to sell the house just like the rest of you. That's not what I asked. It's the answer you're getting. Zion slammed his hand on the table, making the glasses jump. This is insane. I already bought the boat. I put down $15,000. You did what? Dad stared at him. I figured the money was guaranteed. The dealer said I could take delivery next week. Jesus Christ, Zion. Alice rubbed her temples. Please tell me you didn't spend money you don't have. I may have also put an offer on a condo in Miami. The color drained from Alice's face. How much? Just a deposit. 50 grand. $50,000? Dad's voice cracked. Where did you get $50,000? I took out a loan against my expected inheritance. Micah looked like he was going to be sick. Zion, if this sale falls through, you're going to be in serious financial trouble. The sale can't fall through. We'll figure this out, right? We'll fight the wetland thing, or find another buyer, or something. Nobody's going to buy property that can't be developed, Micah said. The land is basically worthless now, except as a private residence. Then we'll sell it as a private residence. For what? Maybe 150,000? Split 4 ways? That's not even 40 grand each. That won't cover your deposits, let alone Gerard's potential lawsuit. Alice was staring at her phone, her face getting paler by the minute. I may have made some purchases too. What kind of purchases? Dad asked. I put a deposit on the house in Riverside Estates, and I may have bought some furniture, and enrolled Emily in private school. How much, Alice? 30,000, maybe 40. The table fell silent again. Around us, the restaurant hummed with normal conversation, normal people having normal dinners, completely unaware that my family was imploding in real time. Micah's phone rang. He answered it immediately. Gerard? Yes, I'm with the family now. He listened for a moment, his expression growing darker. I understand. Yes, I'll tell them. He hung up and looked around the table. Gerard's filing suit first thing Monday morning. He wants full restitution for his losses, plus punitive damages. His lawyers think they can prove deliberate concealment of material facts. But we didn't conceal anything, Alice said desperately. Someone did. Someone filed that environmental study. Someone with detailed knowledge of the property and access to county resources. Micah looked directly at me. Someone who works in environmental planning. I finished my champagne and set the glass down carefully. Well, this has been a lovely evening, but I should probably get going. Early day tomorrow. Denise. Alice's voice was deadly quiet. Sit down. Actually, I think I'll stand. Did you do this? I looked around the table at their faces. Alice's fury, Zion's panic, Dad's confusion, Micah's dawning realization. Do what, Alice? Protect a piece of land that's been in our family for 30 years? Preserve the habitat where Mom used to watch the herons every morning? Stop a developer from turning our childhood home into a strip mall with hot tubs? You destroyed us, she whispered. No, I said, picking up my purse. You destroyed yourselves. I just made sure you couldn't destroy anything else. I made it exactly 3 steps toward the restaurant exit before Alice's voice cut through the dining room like a knife. Get back here right now. Every head in the restaurant turned toward our table. The couple at the booth next to us stopped mid-conversation, forks halfway to their mouths. Alice, lower your voice, Dad said. Lower my voice? Dad, your daughter just admitted to sabotaging our family. I turned around slowly. I admitted to doing my job. Your job? Zion was on his feet now, his face flushed red. Your job is to screw over your own family? My job is to protect environmentally sensitive areas from developers who want to destroy them. That's our land. Alice stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. You had no right. I had every right. It's my land too, remember? I'm an equal owner. Micah held up his hands. Everyone needs to calm down. We're making a scene. I don't care if we're making a scene, Alice hissed. I want to know exactly what she did and how she did it. The restaurant manager appeared at our table, a nervous-looking man in his 50s. Excuse me, folks, but we're going to need you to keep it down or... We're leaving, I said. No, we're not. Alice grabbed my arm. We're going to sit down and figure this out like adults. I looked down at her manicured fingers digging into my sleeve. Let go of me. Not until you explain how you've been planning this behind our backs. Alice, let her go, Dad said. 3 years, Denise. 3 years you've been documenting our property. While Mum was sick, while she was dying, while we were grieving, you were building a case against us. I was building a case to protect the land. From what? From us? From people like Gerard Lucas, who see a beautiful piece of nature and think, how can I pave this and make money? Zion moved around the table to stand next to Alice. You cost me $50,000. You cost yourself $50,000 by spending money you didn't have. Money I was supposed to have. Money that was rightfully mine. Nothing was rightfully yours until the sale went through, which it didn't. Because of you. The restaurant manager cleared his throat. I'm going to have to ask you to take this outside. Fine, Alice said, finally releasing my arm. We'll finish this at the house. What house? I asked. The one you can't wait to sell. The one you think is just a pile of rotting wood and bad memories. The house that belongs to all of us, Dad said quietly. 20 minutes later, we were back in Mum's living room, the same room where they'd voted to sell the house 3 weeks ago. But the dynamic had completely shifted. Now, I was the one standing while they sat, looking up at me with a mixture of anger and something that looked almost like fear. Start from the beginning, Alice demanded. When did you first decide to do this? I didn't decide anything. I just did my job. Stop saying that! Zion slammed his fist on the coffee table. This isn't about your job. This is about revenge. Revenge for what? For being the family screw-up. For not being successful like Alice or charming like me. For being the one who never amounted to anything. His words hit exactly where he intended them to, but I didn't flinch. You're right. I'm not successful like Alice. I don't make 6 figures selling people things they don't need. And I'm not charming like you, Zion. I can't smile my way out of $50,000 in debt. But you can destroy your family to make yourself feel better. I didn't destroy anything. I preserved it. Alice was pacing now, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. Do you have any idea what you've done? Gerard is going to sue us into bankruptcy. I could lose my house. Zion could lose everything. Maybe you should have thought about that before you spent money you didn't have. We had a signed contract. You had a contract to sell land that was never legally yours to develop. It was our land. It was Mom's land, and Mom loved those herons. She loved the marsh. She loved watching the seasons change from that back porch. Mom is dead, Denise. Alice's voice cracked. She's been dead for 6 months, and we're the ones who have to deal with reality. This is reality. The land is protected. It's going to stay the way Mom loved it. Dad spoke for the first time since we'd gotten back to the house. What happens now? Micah, who had been unusually quiet, looked up from his phone. Gerard's lawyers are demanding a meeting Monday morning. They want to discuss settlement options. What kind of settlement? Alice asked. The kind where we pay him back for his losses and hope he doesn't press criminal charges. Criminal charges? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. Fraud, conspiracy, deliberate misrepresentation. Micah looked at me. They're going to argue that Denise used her position at the county to manipulate the sale. I used my position to do my job. Your job doesn't include targeting your own family's property. My job includes evaluating any property that meets the criteria for environmental protection. This property met those criteria. Alice stopped pacing and turned to face me. Fine. You want to play hardball? Here's what's going to happen. You're going to march into that environmental office Monday morning and reverse this designation. I can't do that. You can, and you will. The designation is based on 3 years of documented evidence. I can't just make it disappear because you want me to. Then we'll find someone who can. Good luck with that. Zion stood up. You know what? I'm done with this. I'm done with you. He pointed at me. You're not my sister anymore. Sisters don't destroy each other. Brothers don't dismiss their sisters as pathetic failures either. I never said you were a failure. You didn't have to. It was written all over your face every time you looked at me. Alice moved to stand next to Zion. If you don't fix this, we'll never speak to you again. I looked at the two of them, standing shoulder to shoulder against me, just like they had our whole lives. Then I looked at Dad, slumped in his chair, looking older and more defeated than I'd ever seen him. You know what the funny thing is? I said. You're giving me exactly what I've always wanted. What's that? Alice asked. A family that finally sees me as powerful instead of pathetic. I walked toward the front door, then stopped and turned back. Oh, and Alice, there is one way out of this mess. What? You can still sell the house, just not to a developer. Find someone who wants to live here, who'll take care of it the way Mom did. The wetland designation doesn't prevent residential use. For what? $150,000? That's nothing. It's enough to pay Gerard back and cover your deposits, if you're smart about it. And if we're not smart about it, I opened the front door and stepped onto the porch. Then I guess you'll find out what it's like to lose everything that matters to you. The story broke on Tuesday morning. I was sitting at my desk, trying to focus on a routine zoning application, when Hadley rushed over with her laptop. You need to see this, she said, setting it down in front of me. The headline read, Local Families Greed, Backfires in Environmental Protection Case. Below it was a photo of Alice and Zion leaving Micah's office, both looking like they'd been hit by a truck. How did the press get this? I asked. Someone leaked Gerard's lawsuit filing. It's all here. The failed development deal, the family fighting, even the part about Zion's boat and Alice's house deposits. Hadley scrolled down. Look at the comments. There were hundreds of them. Good for the county worker who protected the wetlands. These people tried to destroy wildlife habitat for money and got what they deserved. Finally, someone standing up to greedy developers. My phone rang. Alice's name on the screen. Are you seeing this? Her voice was shaking. Seeing what? Don't play dumb. The news article, the comments. People are calling us monsters. I didn't leak anything to the press, Alice. Gerard's lawyers think you did. They're saying you orchestrated this whole media circus to make us look bad. Gerard's lawyers are grasping at straws. My boss called me into his office this morning. He's concerned about the negative publicity affecting the company's reputation. Alice's voice cracked. I might lose my job, Denise. Before I could respond, she hung up. Hadley was watching me carefully. How are you feeling about all this? I don't know. And that was the truth. I'd expected to feel triumphant, vindicated. Instead, I just felt hollow. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. Can we talk, please? An hour later, I met Emily at the coffee shop near her school. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Mom's been crying for 3 days straight, she said without preamble. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Because you don't look sorry. I studied her face. At 16, Emily had always been more perceptive than the adults in our family. It's complicated. No, it's not. You destroyed my family because you were mad at them. I protected land that needed protecting. You could have warned us. You could have told us about the wetland thing before we signed the papers. She was right, and we both knew it. Would it have mattered? Would your mom and uncle have listened to me? We'll never know, will we? Emily pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. This is what kids at school are saying about us. The social media post called Alice and Zion greedy environmental destroyers and included photos of our family from the newspaper article. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Sorry doesn't fix anything. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Mom had to withdraw me from the private school. We can't afford it now, and we can't move to the new house because she can't get approved for a mortgage with all this legal stuff hanging over her. What about your dad? He's threatening to sue for full custody. He says Mom's financial irresponsibility makes her an unfit parent. My stomach dropped. Emily, I didn't know. Of course you didn't know. You were too busy getting your revenge to think about who else might get hurt. She stood up to leave, then turned back. You know what the worst part is. Grandma would be ashamed of all of us. You, Mom, Uncle Zion, all of us. She always said family was the most important thing, and look what we've done to each other. That evening, I drove to the house and sat on the back porch, watching the sun set over the lake. The great blue heron was there, standing motionless in the shallows. Mom's favorite. My phone rang. Dad's number. Denise, can you come inside? We need to talk. I found him in the kitchen, looking frailer than ever. There were legal documents spread across the table. Gerard's lawyers made an offer, he said. If we pay him back his development costs, about $200,000, he'll drop the lawsuit. That's good news. Is it? Because we don't have $200,000. Even if we sell the house for full market value as a residence, we'll be lucky to get $150,000. I sat down across from him. What are you saying? I'm saying I might have to declare bankruptcy. At 62 years old, I might lose everything because my children can't stop fighting long enough to act like a family. Dad! Alice lost her job today. Zion's boat got repossessed, and the bank is threatening to foreclose on his condo. And you. He looked at me with tired eyes. You got exactly what you wanted. I wanted to save the house. No, you wanted to hurt them. And you did. But you hurt me too. You hurt Emily. You hurt everyone who cares about this family. I stared down at the legal papers. What do you want me to do? I want you to fix this. I can't reverse the wetland designation. It's based on legitimate environmental concerns. Then help us find another way. Use that brilliant mind of yours to solve problems instead of creating them. Dad stood up slowly, his joints creaking. Your mother's jewelry box is upstairs in the bedroom. She always said it should go to you someday. Maybe now's the time. After he left, I climbed the stairs to my parents' bedroom. Mom's jewelry box sat on the dresser, exactly where it had always been. Inside, along with her wedding ring and a few simple necklaces, was an envelope with my name on it. I opened it with shaking hands. My dearest Denise, it began in Mom's careful handwriting. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and I hope you're not too sad. I know your brother and sister don't always appreciate how special you are, but I do. You have the biggest heart in this family, and the strongest will. That's a powerful combination, but it can be dangerous too. Promise me you'll use your strength to build bridges, not burn them. Family is messy and complicated and sometimes unfair, but it's also the only thing that really matters in the end. Take care of them, sweetheart, even when they don't deserve it. Especially then. All my love, Mom. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the letter, and finally let myself cry. Outside, the heron called to its mate across the darkening water. The next morning, I called Hadley before work. I need a favor, I said. A big one. What kind of favor? The kind that might get us both in trouble. An hour later, we were sitting in her car outside Gerard's downtown office building. Are you sure about this? Hadley asked. No, but I'm doing it anyway. Gerard's receptionist looked surprised when I walked in. Miss Hanson? Mr. Lucas wasn't expecting you. Tell him I'm here to discuss a settlement. 5 minutes later, I was sitting across from Gerard in his glass-walled office. He looked like he hadn't slept much either. This is unexpected, he said. I have a proposition. I'm listening. You drop the lawsuit against my family. In exchange, I'll help you find another property for your resort development. Gerard leaned back in his chair. What kind of property? There's a piece of land about 10 miles north of here. 40 acres, lake access, no environmental restrictions. The owner's been trying to sell for 2 years. Why should I trust you? Because I'm the one who knows which properties in this county are developable and which ones aren't. Work with me instead of against me. Gerard was quiet for a long moment. What's in it for you? My family doesn't go bankrupt. And the wetland designation on your property? Stays in place. Forever. He picked up his phone. Get me Tom Bradley from legal. 2 hours later, I was back at the house. Alice's car was in the driveway, along with Zion's truck. I found them in the living room with Dad and Micah. What are you doing here? Alice asked. Gerard's dropping the lawsuit. The room went dead silent. What? Micah looked up from his laptop. I just came from his office. He's withdrawing all claims against the family. How? Zion's voice was barely a whisper. I made a deal with him. Alice stood up. What kind of deal? The kind where he gets what he wants and we get what we need. Denise, Dad said quietly, what did you do? I helped him find a better property for his development, one that's actually suitable for a resort. Micah was typing furiously. I'm not seeing any paperwork filed yet. It'll be filed by end of business today. Gerard's lawyers are drawing up the withdrawal documents now. Alice sank back into her chair. I don't understand. Why would you help him after everything that's happened? Because Emily was right. Grandma would be ashamed of all of us. So what happens now? Zion asked. Now we figure out how to sell this house to someone who'll actually live in it. Micah cleared his throat. Actually, I might have a buyer. We all turned to look at him. My cousin Sarah has been looking for a place on the lake. She's a teacher, recently divorced, has 2 kids. She saw the newspaper article and called me yesterday. How much is she offering? Alice asked. $140. Cash. She can close in 2 weeks. Alice and Zion exchanged glances. It wasn't the windfall they'd been expecting, but it was enough to cover their deposits and get them out of debt. That works, Alice said finally. For all of us? I asked. What do you mean? I mean, do I get a vote this time, or are we back to the 3 against 1 system? Dad spoke up. Everyone gets a vote. Equal shares, equal say. Then I vote yes, I said. On one condition. What condition? Zion asked suspiciously. Emily gets first pick of anything she wants from the house. Furniture, photos, whatever. Before we divide up the rest. Alice's eyes filled with tears. She'd like that. I vote yes too, Dad said. Yes, Zion agreed. Yes, Alice whispered. Micah started gathering his papers. I'll call Sarah and set up the paperwork. After he left, the 4 of us sat in awkward silence for a few minutes. I'm sorry, Alice said finally. About the things I said, about calling you pathetic and childish. I'm sorry too, about the way I handled this whole thing. You could have just talked to us, Zion said. Explained about the wetlands before we got in so deep. Would you have listened? He thought about it. Probably not. Definitely not, Alice admitted. Dad stood up slowly. I'm going to make some coffee. Anyone want some? I'll help, I said. In the kitchen, Dad filled the old percolator while I got cups from the cabinet. Your mother would be proud of you, he said, for fixing this. I'm the one who broke it in the first place. No, sweetheart. It was broken long before you filed that wetland designation. We just never bothered to notice. The coffee started percolating, filling the kitchen with its familiar smell. Dad, what are you going to do after the house sells? I don't know yet. Maybe find a little apartment somewhere. Start over. You could stay with me for a while, if you want. My couch pulls out. He smiled for the first time in weeks. I'd like that. We carried the coffee back to the living room, where Alice and Zion were looking through old photo albums. Look at this one, Alice said, holding up a picture of the 3 of us as kids, building a sandcastle on the beach. Remember that summer? You made me be the castle servant, I said. And you put sand in our lunch sandwiches, Zion added. That was an accident. Sure it was. We spent the rest of the afternoon going through boxes and albums, dividing up memories along with possessions. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments, still things left unsaid. But it was a start. As the sun set over the lake, I walked out to the dock one last time. The heron was there, as always, waiting patiently for fish. Thank you, I whispered to Mum, to the bird, to the lake itself. Behind me, I could hear Alice and Zion arguing about who got Dad's old fishing tackle, their voices carrying the familiar rhythm of siblings who knew exactly how to annoy each other. It sounded like family. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you for everything. I know this wasn't easy. Gerard. I deleted it without responding and walked back toward the house, where my family was waiting.